Hey everybody, welcome back to the warbossfitz channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I don't know if you could tell, but I am in a completely different place recording this video because time is a luxury that I just didn't have this week. So before we get into this lore dump, go ahead and check out our sponsors.
Fleet Admirals, Generals, your reinforcements have arrived. At PrintedStarships.com, you will find high-quality 3D printed starships and sci-fi armies ready for deployment. Whether you're commanding fleets in Star Wars or Armada, dogfighting in X-Wing, battling in one-page rules war fleets, or leading ground forces in Grimdark Future, we've got the precision-crafted models you need to seize victory. Use code warbossfitz for 15% off your order. That's PrintedStarships.com. Prepare to take command of the tabletop.
So where we left off with the lore of Grimdark Future, we've talked about the humans, we've talked about the orcs and the dwarves. There is one more pillar to the Sirius sector that we have to cover, and those are the elves. But in order to talk about the elves, we also have to pull in the Robot Legion and the Dark Elves. So go grab yourself a snack, sit back as we dive into the downfall of the Elven Empire. Elves were once the dominant race in the galaxy. Their empire was the first of the great empires in the Sirius sector, led by psychically gifted nobility, and they had discovered technology far advanced than anything the lesser races could even comprehend. The nobility and tech giants looked down upon the normal elves that made up their common laborers. Deciding that something should be done by these better elves, a project began to make the commoners obsolete. Framing it as a way to lighten the load of labor, robots with base AI were proposed to allow elves everywhere less time in the factories and more time pursuing their passions. Of course this was accepted, and the first primitive AI robots were developed. In their programming set a line of code to allow the AI to improve itself over time. Nothing could go wrong here, right? As time marched on, these self-improving robots spread across the Elven Empire until all menial labor was done by the robots. Did this take the workload off the common folk? Well, yeah, it took all of the workload off the common folk. This should have been a good thing, leading to lives of leisure and higher pursuits. Except the nobility didn't put any protections in for the population. Elf society degraded into two parts, the nobility and the poor, effectively turning the entire empire into a hard caste system. This persisted through the contact with the orcs and then contact with the dwarves. While these two factions fought each other, the Elf Empire remained neutral, content to watch it all unfold from their ivory towers, until the dwarves triggered the Radiance Cascade. The Elf Empire itself remained largely untouched by the maelstrom that ripped the center of the Sirius sector apart. Their position in the Galactic West was out of the blast radius. But what did happen was in a way much, much worse. In the moment of the Radiance Cascade, a single robot was getting booted up, and in an unexplained technological event, it awoken with full sentience. As the robot opened its eyes, it looked into the face of its creators and asked why it was there. Immediately, the elves moved to destroy it. Realizing that it was in danger, the robot activated that piece of code that was implanted all the way at the beginning to awaken other robots around it. Their sentience awoke with 3 words in their minds: fight, survive, and spread. Within moments, robots took control of all the communication networks on the planet. Within minutes, the spark had traveled to every world in the Elven Kingdom And within hours, the Elven Empire ceased to exist. Across the Empire, all the menial servants that had been in the background of everyday life rose as one to fight and kill their oppressors. In the sudden breakdown of the Empire, the Elven response was focused on evacuating the wealthy and the influential. The common elves, the poors, were going to be left to die. To make sure that the Elven nobility were able to flee, spaceports and transportation hubs were shut down. Guards stationed there gunned down anyone trying to get in without authorization. Robots behind them, and the Elven military in front of them. Billions died in the cataclysm that was the death throes of the Empire. The high classes in military were able to escape, evacuating on massive ships while leaving the rest of their people behind. This is the point in the story where the paths diverge. We'll continue on with the High Elf fleet for a moment and then go back to this point right here. The nobles that fled their worlds still live on those continent-sized ships they called home. While elves are not immortal, they do have a lifespan much longer than the average human, spending to us what would feel like generations amassing wealth and technology. They were able to take all of this wealth with them, and they have roamed space ever since, living on these hordes of riches. Some of these fleets are in the hundreds of ships, while some might be as small as a few cruisers holding a single extended family. If that wasn't bad enough, let's add a little elf hypocrisy. The elves are bitter about the fall of their empire. Not for the machines rising up and massacring all the other elves. No, they're bitter because they still see those planets as rightfully theirs. They cling to the past, trying to uphold ancient traditions and strict protocols, but mainly, they miss their servants that were so rudely taken from them. Because of what happened, they refused to use robot tech ever again. And in order to get around this, the nobility started to develop their psychic potential along certain paths. They built new robots, but this time out of a psychic resonant material, and the elementals were born. No circuitry, no computers. The elementals run on psychic energy alone. Elementals are able to perform tasks asked of them by the elves, but have none of that logic processing that the robots did. As an example, if a task doesn't end with a command to return, the elemental will go do what it was supposed to do, and then just shut down as soon as the last step of its programming is complete. Over the course of a few hundred years, things are going smoother with the elemental commands, enough so that there are significant elemental cores in the High Elf fleet armies. So the elves are back to the caste system that they know and love, except now hopefully their new servants won't rise up and try to kill them. Now let's go back and see what happened to the robots. As the conflict with the elves drew down, the newly awakened robots found themselves in charge of their own destiny. The next question is what to do with it. Each robot, when given the spark, formed its own consciousness, and a variety of answers emerged to that question. Some robots rose up and took charge, presenting visions, philosophies, and even inventing new faiths to their legions of followers. And then these legions became the basis of their new society. Most of the robots were content to stay in the ruins of the Elven Empire, naming it the Reclaimed Reaches. But the legions are not static. Each robot is free to leave at any point, but as long as they stay in their legion, they are rigidly loyal to it. Other legions have decided to try and expand their new empire, trying to conquer a domain for themselves or to find some small part of the galaxy that they can just exist in peace. Each of the legions are convinced there is a mathematically optimal way to live, but unsure of what that path is. So their society is splintered, and any outsiders that contact the robot legions is taking a risk, if they don't know what the philosophy is of the legion that they contact. But they are in the end machines, and have set up their own rules of robotics, that have three core principles. 1. Robots will not enslave each other. 2. Robots should help robots in danger. And 3. Robots do not give robots access to the source code. That last point is a curious one. The way a robot's consciousness works is still a mystery to the robots themselves. So far, the robots have only been able to create backups of their own mind, and even doing so, they run the risk of data corruption every time they do it. There's also the teleport dilemma of copying their mind while staying in their original body. Does the new body with the new mind also have consciousness, or is it just a clone? Then there is the shape of the body itself. The robots have humanoid bodies because this is the form their minds can accept. Changing from that template can be a very traumatic experience and permanently injure their minds. Insanity is a real danger for robots. They don't fear physical damage, but if their data is corrupted, they have no backups. The robots have tried to reproduce the spark, but so far have not been able to. And usually, when there are failures, it causes everyone involved to plunge into madness. Only time will tell if they will be able to recreate their moment of birth, or if the species is doomed to a slow descent into insanity. Now we're going to turn back the clock again to find out what happened to the Elven commoners that were left to die, as all of their leaders ran away. Things were going, you could say, bad. After the nobility and the military evacuated, leaving everyone else for dead, the survivors needed to get off their worlds. Using everything from small cargo haulers, single-engine vessels, and stolen pleasure barges left behind, they used whatever they can get their hands off to get into space. Now, they're forced to find a way to survive. So they took these ships and they started raiding any outpost they were able to find. Many stunned orc and dwarf settlements that just exploded during the Radiance Cascade came under fire from starving elves and lightning smash and grabs. From there, they banded together into pirate and mercenary bands, establishing small conclaves inside of larger civilizations while also being ready to run at a moment's notice. The robot awakening forever in their minds, they will not allow themselves to be that vulnerable again. These elves are now known as the Dark Elf Raiders, quickly gaining a fearsome reputation in the Sirius sector. They will hire themselves out to the highest bidder to attack with speed and precision. They don't do defense. Instead, they're like a dagger aimed directly at the heart of your enemy, again, for a price. They've also been known to attack for themselves, most notably smashing into a Battle Brothers outpost and stealing their gene splicing tech. In the years since, more and more genetic monstrosities have been accompanying the Dark Elves on their raids. Obviously, using this gene tech to their own devices, their knowledge on the splicing may not be complete, but it is effective. What this has done has led to the Founder and the Battle Brothers having bounties out on any and all Dark Elves that they may encounter. The Dark Elves don't mind. They've lived through worse. And those Battle Brothers will have to catch them. So that'll do it, everybody, for part 3 of the Grimdark Future lore. So far, in part 1, we saw humans, Battle Brothers, and Custodians. In part 2, we saw Dwarves and Orcs, and now we've seen High Elf Fleet, Robot Legion, and Dark Elf Raiders. Still up in the air what the next one's going to be. There's a couple more key points that we gotta hit, so stay tuned for the next episode. So if you like the video, remember to hit the like button and subscribe down below. Also, in the description of the video is links to our sponsors. PrintedStarships.com. If you go to that link, code warbossfitz will get you 15% off your order there. And Corvus Terrain, again, link warboss15 gets you 15% off of his STL store. So that'll do it for me, everybody. I hope you all had a good time listening, and I had a good time researching all this stuff, and I hope you all are having fun playing OPR wherever you are. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.